All right, now that the kids are fast asleep, I'm going to bang out a couple more questions of this Q&A that seems to be really, really long. I've got a lot of questions, so it's going to take maybe a couple more to get through all of this. 140 all up questions. So I've done 2 already, so let's just continue on and answer a couple more questions. I've got some time before sleep, so let's do it. Some of these questions are now a month old, so some of the stuff maybe it's not so relevant, but let's get to it and see what's up. So Eugene asks, how long do you live in Australia, and at what are you come to Australia? At what age, I'm guessing he's saying. We came in 1998. I was 10 years old. I might have mentioned this already, originally from Croatia. War happened over there. So we kind of were displaced and went everywhere, really. Serbia, Kosovo. And then eventually we came to Australia in 1998 as refugees and been here ever since, settled in. And Australia is a beautiful country. Very lucky to be here. SpongeBob HR says, what you do when you get hip pain after squatting or deadlifting? So what do I do after hip pain? So I've kind of documented this fairly well and dedicated a whole video to it. So I don't get hip pain anymore. The hip pain was a mystery to me for a long time. I want to say more than 6 months. It plagued me, probably even 9 months, on and off. And then probably around March, I think this year, it got to a point where I couldn't sleep on my right hip. And then it kind of came to a head when I kind of realized that my left hip started hurting as well. And that kind of was the spark that kind of led me to think maybe it's not some kind of damage that I have in the right hip. Maybe this is related to what I'm doing currently. And then by chance, I kind of realized that the glutes actually don't insert, most of the glutes don't actually insert into the femur. They actually insert into the ITB, iliotibial band. And that kind of basically worked everything out for me. I knew that the ITB, the TFL, tensor fasciae lata, inserted into the ITB, but I never knew that the glute also inserted into the ITB. So that TFL pain that I was getting was essentially a glute symptom. And so I was able to kind of work out that, it's not the TFL, it's not the hip internal rotation that was causing me troubles, it's actually the glute. So if I just worked on my glute, pump some more blood in there, it might work. And it ended up working really, really well. So if you have hip pain, this could be one of the options you could kind of look into. Just basically do a lot of light reps with weight that's below 50% of your 1 rep max. Get a lot of blood in there. The glute will kind of swell up, pump up, and you will basically have relief from that TFL. Because if you're always squatting with sort of like 70% upwards weight and you're always doing singles day in, day out, especially if you're squatting every day, that's a lot of time under the bar with very heavy weight. And the glutes get tighter and tighter and tighter in response to doing heavy weight. That's kind of what muscles tend to do when you're doing really heavy work. That's the whole point of a picking block. You just become, I guess, more tense to be able to handle all that weight. But if you keep pushing the glute to tighten up, it will pull on that TFL, because the TFL is it's like a fraction of what the glute mass is. And so the TFL starts getting pulled out of place and starts panicking and getting inflamed, and voila, there's your pain. So basically my experience is that you have to spend a lot of time with, lightweight. As not sexy as that sounds, basically lightweight has a place. You have to spend some time with lightweight. That was basically the solutions I came to. So that's that one. Calvin Newen says, what was your experience like lifting when you were a beginner? Did you have any mistakes you did back then then that you would have liked to fix if you were as knowledgeable as you are now? The athletic experience prior to lifting. Do you have any experience prior to lifting? So, man, when I started lifting weights, man, it was basically, seriously, I started lifting weights kind of like 2021. Although I didn't have a focus, I just kind of went to the gym and did the bro split. Kind of whatever I felt like I'll do at the gym. That kind of happened after I kind of gave up basketball. Did that for a little bit. And then it wasn't until like 25, 26 that I started picking up powerlifting properly, started my logbook, training log, started writing everything down, started looking into programming, and that's kind of where I properly started training. The start between 21 to about 25 was just fluff. I was just kind of, going for the aesthetic rather than the performance. I made a few mistakes, man. Obviously, that's how you learn. Initially, I just started lifting, kind of feeling my way around wherever. I kind of just basically applied what I did for the bodybuilding side of things, the aesthetic stuff, and I just kind of tried to apply it to strength. And it was erratic. It was all over the place, and that kind of led me to kind of look into some proper, texts. Look for people that actually knew what they were talking about. And then I remember the first page of the training log was the Texas 5x5, the Texas method, Mark Ripeto's stuff. So I read his book. I've got it somewhere here as well. Still got it. I look at it sometimes as well to this day. Started looking at that, and I think I did something like 12 weeks with that. It was pretty good. He was good, but I still kind of, because even then I was kind of nursing. I always kind of had inconsistencies with shift work, Mark Ripper wants you to have kind of like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and train like that. But if your shifts don't match up well with those routine, sets and reps that you have to do, man, that's a struggle. So I kind of really early on in my Texas method, I started thinking about how I could adapt. And I started adapting the Texas method. I started skipping days, moving days, changing the volume, changing the reps. I basically started basically manipulating what the thing was. And then eventually I realized that this is not a Texas method anymore. This is some sort of like abomination of the Texas method. It's not going to work if I'm changing it completely. And then a few years later, I did all sorts of things, man. I think I did 531. What else did I do? There's a bunch of other programs. And then in that kind of chaotic mentality that I was kind of looking for other stuff, I learned about pivotal tooling. I listened to that interview on Tim Ferriss's podcast. You guys can definitely check that out. Tim Ferriss's podcast with pivotal tooling. That was something like a 2-hour podcasting interview with him. That really opened my eyes. That led me to buy the book, Power to the People. I read Deadlift Dynamite. There was a few other texts that I read. Then I heard about John Bros. And then basically, the Bulgarian thing started happening. But plenty of mistakes, man. I still make mistakes today. Like, it's just part of it, man. I just wish I was a bit more braver to kind of, experiment. Because I think the way I live my life and the way kind of my life is set up, it's very, very hard. And for, shift workers out there, you kind of understand. It's very, very hard to stay on a proper program that's kind of fixed in without auto regulation, without gut feel. It's very, very difficult, and it made my training life very not fun when you have to come in on days that you're not fit for a fight. For you to fight, it's not the best thing. I didn't like that, and the training became frustrating. I started losing kind of my way with training, and then when I discovered pivotal tooling and that grease in the groove thing, I was like, man, what a concept! Let's just look into this, and that's kind of where I'm in today. Kind of just keep expanding on those thoughts. Basketball, previous experience. Played basketball all my teens, basically from 10 years old to 20. Played basketball. That was kind of my background. Kind of too many questions. It's all good, man. I think I got most of them. Joseph Cobb says, if you're a taller, like for instance me, at 6'6", and you have really long femurs, I've got a hard time squatting ATG and with a narrow stance. I'll squat like a powerlifter with pretty wide stance, and just wondering if you have any tips for me and for all those tall guys out there. Thanks. I watch your vids every night because I always learn something from your videos. Keep it up, man. Thanks, man. Thanks, Jess. So you're 6'6", man. You're a tall dude. You're a really tall guy in the general public, in basketball. Even in basketball, I guess Jordan was 6'6". You're still pretty tall, even in the basketball court. So it doesn't really matter how tall you are. That's kind of my experience. I told the story before about Dennis Rodman. Saw him squat down, basically ATG, during one of the Bulls games. Kind of, he got the rebound, threw it out, transition play. He kind of stayed back in the backcourt, and he just kind of squatted down as he used to be, kind of like a fun guy. But yeah, so he could squat ATG. It wasn't kind of like Lou or Klokov, but he squatted ATG pretty comfortably. So I think the height is not so important as it is the leverages that you have. Like if you have a really long femur and you're 5'5", you're still pretty screwed. I hear you. At 6'6", it's even more, you're screwed. What I would say to you is, I feel like a lot of tall people don't have good connection and good control of their lumbar spine, of their pelvic region. So I would suggest to you become a master of your psoas, iliopsoas. Become a master of controlling your spine as you descend. Really get mobile through the adductors and the hamstrings. You need to add length, because if a 6'6" guy starts squatting, man, those levers, they're not going to add up really well for you. So, a bit of weight, at the end of a long stick is a lot of weight. So I would suggest, man, just work on your mobility, work on the adductors, get them longer. Even what I'm doing right now, kind of aim for the middle splits. What else can I say? Adductors, hamstrings, psoas. Those are the things. I made a video about this actually, what taller lifters should do to be able to get to ATG. I basically summarized it just then. But that's kind of what I would say to you. Just focus on that core and the pelvic control. Sander Adama says, if a thigh muscle is a weak muscle, how do you untighten them for not only form but pain-free movement? So the general vibe that I always have is a tight muscle is a weak muscle. So in order for you to get that muscle to kind of lengthen, you need to add strength to it. I've kind of explained this in the past, that if a muscle is tightened up, it's tightened up for a reason. There's a cause and effect. So the cause, I believe, is that it's weak and it's protecting itself. It's kind of just like going into its shell, because if you, for instance, imagine that weak muscle, let's say artificially lengthened, it's now at a higher chance of ripping and tearing. So the body's response is to tighten up the muscle, protect it, so you have less range of motion through that particular limb, and so you're less likely to exhibit forceful kind of power through that. So that's one thing. And the other thing is the fascia. The fascia is always going to protect weakness. So the moment you start adding strength to that muscle, it's going to start lengthening. So for instance, this is the number one tightest muscle for human beings, is the hamstring. A lot of people stretch their hamstrings day and night. And it's very, very stubborn. It doesn't want to let go. It doesn't want to let go because you're weak. A lot of people don't have the ability to properly hip hinge. People don't know how to hip hinge. They bend their spines. So if you learn how to hip hinge properly and you start doing proper hip hinges, your hamstring starts getting stronger, because hip hinging is the hamstring role. So that's what I would just do. Start adding a lot of reps to it. Reps, something 10 to 20 reps. Pick some sort of exercise for that particular muscle and just keep working to get strength to it. And over time, you will realize that you'll get longer and longer in the muscle. I've got a friend who basically massive into yoga, very flexible, and he was able to injure his back, even though he's very, very flexible. So just because you have long muscle doesn't mean it's strong. So if you persist with the stretching and you're stubborn and you keep stretching the hamstring and finally you overcome some of these body reflexes and you force that weak muscle to get longer, now you're asking for trouble. Now things can happen. So next time you go pick up a pencil off the floor, something might go pop, because now you've removed the defensive mechanism. So I always feel like if there is something that's really, really tight on you, work it, strengthen it, and then you can stretch it, but don't stretch it without strengthening it. Kieran Gill says, rounded back results in poor squatting form for me. Hamstring flexibility is too bad. How do I go about fixing this while I still get the squats in? I squat 3 to 4 times a week. That's excellent. So that's really good that you got frequency. Basically the same thing as what I said in the previous question. if you've got a rounded spine when you're squatting, that means you don't have the ability to squat. That probably means that you don't have the ability to hip hinge, number one, so your hamstrings are jacked, your adductors are jacked, and your glutes are probably jacked. So what I would do is I would isolate these muscle groups and strengthen them, because squatting with a rounded back is only asking for trouble, man. You have to have the ability to kind of stabilize that, core. The other thing that comes into my mind is, once again, is the psoas. The psoas is the only thing responsible for keeping your back flat. It originates from the lower back, T12 to L5, inserts into the femurs. When that thing contracts, you have lordosis. You have a flat back, or even you can go even further. You can have too much lordosis. So work on your hanging knee raises, work on your standing knee raises, work on your adductors. Spend a lot of time in the bottom of the squat, even if you have to elevate your heels on something. Spend a lot of time in there, stretch your adductors, go for the middle splits again. A lot of the same stuff, but do not squat heavy weight. I wouldn't go over 50% if I were you, if you've got a really bad form squatting. Hinja01 says, do you ever visit Serbia, Croatia? How well do you understand Serbian? Pozdrav iz Vojke kod stare Pazove. I understand Serbian really well. Serbia, Croatian, I guess. We speak it at home all the time. Pozdravitevi iz Australije, sve najbolje, care. But yeah, basically, I speak fluently. My kids speak Serbian as well. Actually, my boys just started kindy, and he's struggling. He's learning English now, but his first language is Serbian. So, razumijem ja sve, ne brini. Vilko Bangers, any tips on ankle mobility? I'm 17. I have been unable to do any sort of squat due to lack of mobility. Have been doing various stretches for a couple of months, but I'm still a long way off. Ankle mobility, man, that's a biggie. My vert has increased from 24 inches to 31 inches just from the minor more ability I've gotten over time. Appreciate any sort of reply. From Adelaide as well, so shout out, respect, man. Fellow Adelaidean. There's another comment from him. Went to a physician and recommended surgery after getting x-rays done. My talus bone sticks out and in turn stops my ankle from bending past that point. I want to become the best athlete I can, but I am not sure on surgery at the moment. It's an absolute headache, but any advice is appreciated. I guess, speak to your doctors, if you have some sort of like abnormality there, I understand. But one thing that I'm always aware of is that, man, it's a heavy topic. Some of these doctors are not there for the best for you. They're not there to do the best for what you. They're not there. I'm getting tongue-tied. To give you the best for you. That makes no sense. Some of these doctors don't care about you, basically. Some of these doctors are there because they're business people. I've got a couple of stories. I mean, I work in the industry, right? So you can be very, very careful what you get from doctors in terms of advice. There are some excellent doctors out there who are there for you, who have your best interests at heart. But there are some doctors out there who just want a buck. And procedural medicine is great, pays a lot of money. So if you cut somebody up, if you go to surgery, that's money for him. If you can write your script, that's for him. He doesn't get anything out of telling you there are some things we can do to stretch, to go to physio and all that stuff. He doesn't get anything out of that. So be very, very careful about just jumping into surgery. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that I don't know much about you, man. If you have some sort of like structural damage within you, like if you've done your ankles in the past really badly and there's like structural damage there and there's like a physical impingement, like a bone-to-bone thing, I get it. But a lot of these things happen, like bones get pulled out of position because of tightness, right? Your ankles, if your calves and your whole posterior chain is really jacked up, if you have really poor foot control, foot strength, if you can't elevate your great toe a certain degree, if you can't kind of like flex your foot, if all of that is just, you got flat feet, yeah, you can get surgery, but you can also work on some of these weaknesses and insufficiencies that you have. I wouldn't just jump under the knife, because once you go with the knife, man, who knows what can happen, man. I would say to you, ankle mobility is one of those things that people always talk about banning distractions and loading the leg up, elevate the leg or something, get the band, distract the tibia, distract the talus, all that stuff. I feel the best thing you can do is strengthen the foot, calf raises, calf raises, calf raises. Work on the hamstring, work on the glutes, work on the adductors, let all that posterior fascia release. That's my experience, man. And then your calf fascia also releases, then your foot releases, everything releases. Have you ever rolled your foot on a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball? You roll it for about 5 minutes and you retest your ankle mobility and it's better. What's going on there? What is going on there? The fascia has been triggered to release, and once it releases, you all of a sudden have better mobility. So there are some things here that you can kind of, it kind of hints towards this is fixable without a knife. So my recommendation to you is, you're clearly stretching or whatever, but stretching something that's weak, as I've already mentioned, is not as effective as stretching something that's strong. So try and add some strength to your foot. There's heaps of exercises. I'm actually looking at that right now. Some exercises that are kind of looking at plantar strength of the foot. You're kind of curling your toes in, lifting your toes up, like all that kind of business. I'm kind of looking at that right now, just reading some stuff about it. Who doesn't want more dorsiflexion? You're going to be a better athlete if you have more dorsiflexion. But trying to stretch something that, like the Achilles, damn man, the Achilles is the strongest tendon in the body. How the hell are you going to stretch that? So you need to release the structures that are feeding into the Achilles. The calf, obviously you can roll that, you can stretch that, you can strengthen that. You can strengthen the fascia that kind of communicates all the way up your bum and all the way down the leg. That's what I would do. Just start adding more strength, then you can stretch it as well. Alexander EF says, to what do you attribute your discipline? Nearly 500 days is crazy. So how do you get up and go on the days when everything is against you? I've said this in the past, man. Like my motivation is, I guess it's personal in a way. I'm a nurse, man. I've said this a few times in the past. Nursing feeds me, man. My exposure with sick people feeds me all the time. I basically see people every day in not a good shape, and I go home every single day feeling blessed that I have health. And so a part of me is always kind of guilty if I'm not pushing. I'm fortunate. I'm blessed. Let's make use of some of these opportunities that we have. When you see some of the unfortunate people that I see in my line of work, you always think to yourself, man, this person would kill just to be able to walk, right? But the people that have everything on their plate, like maybe you and me, we're the ones who are not doing anything. So for me, the biggest thing that I get out of my career is this motivation, this compass that I have, this zooming out effect that I sometimes call, and see life for what it is, and that it's not, you're not going to be around here for forever. So this is a transient thing, this life. So you got to make use of it, man. So every time I get down on myself, I'm like, would I rather be in a sick bed, or would I get under the bar and experience some transient discomfort? That's kind of where all that stands for me. Stephen Patterson says, can you show off your jersey collection? Maybe one day, man. I've got so many now. Marco Corsia, why do you squat every day? I made a video about this specifically, but basically it's multifactorial. Number one, I believe in skill acquisition. I believe in practicing your craft every single day. Pele, Maradona, Ronaldo, Messi, they kick the ball every day. Kobe Bryant shot the ball every day. LeBron James shoots the ball. Steph Curry, everyone shoots the ball every day. I come from that school of thought. I think you should practice your craft every single day. That doesn't mean hitting a 1 rep max every single day and doing 55 pig squat routines. You can squat the bar and practice your skill every single day without causing any central nervous system or metabolic fatigue. You can do that. It's just a lot of people don't think there's value in that. I happen to think there is a lot of value in that. So that's one factor. Number two, you stay you stay mobile year round all the time without having to stretch. My ATG squat came around predominantly because I squatted every day. Number three, allows me to learn all the time and adjust everything on the fly. I have a lot of time under the bar, and so I have feedback from the body all the time, and I can adjust all the time. Another point is my mind is always evolving. My mind is always learning, and I always want to change things appropriately. I want to have that feedback mechanism where I've come across something and I'm like, okay, I want to change it. And so the fact that I can squat every day and adapt every single day, and auto-regulate every single day, I can kind of work with some of the things that I'm kind of doing. So I can always change, adapt, variety, all that stuff is very important to me. The biggest influence that I had was Ivan Abijev and Pavel Tsatsouline. They both talked about the advantage, the benefit of squatting every day, the advantage of high frequency. They were big proponents of that. There's many. I can maybe link a video to your question on here. I basically spent like 15 minutes talking about this very topic, but I've just basically covered some of it. Jack Butler says, I hate to say it, but squatting is my least favorite exercise because of how wrong it feels for my body. Everything hurts when I squat, and not in a good way. I've tried so hard to perfect my form, strengthen my hip flexors, psoas, low back, abs, everything possible to improve mobility, and yet squats just never feel great for me. I can't ever get past 100 kilos. What's the best advice you can give to help me feel stronger when squatting? So if you're doing all of those things and you're kind of addressing all the stuff that I've kind of said in this video already, I want to say do it more. I really want to say do it more. I want to say forget about all the bodybuilding parameters, powerlifting parameters where you have to spend 70 to 85, of your 1 rep max, spend a lot of time in there. I would say work with 30% of your 1 rep max every single day. Get under the bar and squat that thing for 20 to 30 reps every single day. There's nothing like repetitions. Your body will adapt. We are humans. We've evolved for thousands of years, right? So if you plunge yourself into this and you work smartly and you don't damage yourself, so you're just working with 30%, this is lightweight, right? So put 30 kilos on the bar, right? So you're at 100 kilos or thereabouts. Put 20 to 30 kilos on the bar and just rep it out every single day. Reps, 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 reps. Wax on, wax off type shit, right? Just immerse yourself into squatting, and I think, volume, any like this is cheap volume. Any volume is going to make your body understand what's up. I'm not a natural squatter either, man. My squats never came natural to me. So after 528 days in a row of squatting all the time, you just get better at it, man. What can I say? If you're really bad at 3-point shooting, you're not going to get better at it by doing layups. Just start jacking up shots, man. Do 1,000 freaking shots a day from the 3-point line. 1,000. Man, a monkey would learn after a year to hit a couple, man, right? You just keep launching them. That's all it is, man. Just think about it as a skill and not as a bodybuilding, powerlifting, break your muscle type thing. It's a skill. Rocket 3, how can I squat with flat feet? I somehow always get hip pain. Know about that a little bit. My deadlift, 1 RM is 190 and a bench 115. Meanwhile, squat is 110 for 1 rep. Wow, okay, that's a big discrepancy. Hip pain, you know my story about hip pain. If you're watching this video, you kind of know. Hip pain is basically, it's hard to say, but I believe it's a balancing act between internal and external rotation. We have far stronger muscles that externally rotate our leg, and only a few much weaker internal rotators. Balance them out. Pump a lot of reps into the glutes. Let them relax a little bit. Reps, pumps, relax muscles. Stop going so heavy. I know 110, whatever, but like previous comment I said, do 50 kilos, do 50% reps. Get a lot of reps in. The flat feet basically screams to me you need to have really strong external rotators, because with flat feet you're most likely collapsing your arches and you're kind of having knee valgus. So you need to fight that. If you had flat feet, man, you probably have really shitty calves. I would spend a lot of time working on your calves. You need to strengthen the arch of your foot. Even though you have flat feet, I would just bang out a lot of reps with like every single day. You know about calves, man. They're stubborn as hell. So you need to pump a lot of reps into your calves and do a lot of light squats to strengthen out all the external rotators and even internal rotators. And also you need to go ATG as well for the sake of hip pain and knee pain. I believe ATG squats is by far the safest. I think parallel squats, 90-degree squats, do a lot more damage than ATG squats. Dennis Berg Brig, as somebody who seems to be very health orientated, have you ever considered a whole foods plant-based diet? I have, man. I really have. I think I was 23 or 24 years of age when I started my vegetarian diet. So I did 3 months of pure vegetarian, and I was uneducated. I have to say that. I didn't have a good preparation of how I was going to go about it. I basically got served at home food, and I would just remove the meat and eat whatever else was on the plate. That is not a good way to be a vegetarian. You're not going to get any of your macros this way, or vitamins and minerals. So I did a really poor method, and I struggled with it. I had really poor energy. I think mine plummeted. I was getting dizzy, so I kind of let go of that. But if I was to do it again, I would, I have already a bit more knowledge, but I would immerse myself intellectually first, understand what's up, and then I would go again. But it's kind of hard socially because, I am Serbian. And if you know anything about Serbian people, man, we eat a lot of meat. So, I don't know, I've thought about it in the past, but I'm not all that convinced that that is the right path for me. Anthony Ruscon, do you take any supplements? No, nothing. Who are your favorite Olympic weightlifters to watch from recent times? Mine are Mezo Hassona and Loredana Toma. I know both of them. Meso I follow on Instagram. I like his personality, so charismatic, so happy. He doesn't have that ego about him like a lot of the other guys do. Meso is definitely one of them. I love Klokov. Klokov basically was the first weightlifter that I kind of learned about. Lou, I think, is a marvel. Tao is also amazing. A lot of these Chinese guys are just absolutely amazing. Who knows what's going on in China with, that documentary on Netflix that I saw recently. What's it called? Icarus or something. And then, Clarence Kennedy recently, posted a few videos about this. There's been a lot of attention on anti-doping, doping kind of scene. So I don't really know what's happening in China. I don't really know what's happening anyway, really. But these are the people that I kind of looked up to, even though that's probably not a healthy thing to do when these people are enhanced and you can never attain what they are if you're natural. But these are some of the guys I looked up to. Are you a former athlete? Yeah, basketball player for 10 years, man. Do you take any supplements? No, I don't. That was from Ms528, regular commenter. No, I don't take any supplements, man. Ishraq Kabir, you being an Aussie, I guess you're into cricket. No, man, not into cricket. Don't like cricket at all. Kale Umne, how tall are you? I'm 184 centimeters. Dimitri Tasho, what country are you from? So I'm in Australia right now. Back before that, I was in Croatia and Serbia. The war kind of got us to Australia, basically. How tall are you? Just answered that. Josh Remland, have you ever considered changing your walkout when you're doing heavy squats? I've watched professional weightlifters and they always have both feet under the bar when they unrack the weight. This may be helpful when going for that 200 kilo squat. Yeah, I don't know why. You just kind of started doing that kind of staggered stance walkout, and it's kind of felt comfortable ever since then. I don't know. It's not uncomfortable to do 2 feet. It was just kind of a habit now. I don't feel unstable, with the split stance at all. So I don't know. Well, who knows what will happen in the future. Can you introduce us to the cameraman? He does, well, he wants to be a secret identity, I guess. But maybe one day we'll get him on camera and have a chat to him because he's a smart fella as well. And he's basically, been dropped into this whole weightlifting, journey basically all from me. He's not a gym bro. He's not into weightlifting at all. But he's learned a lot. He's an academic, so he understands science. So, I wish he kind of, got stuck into weightlifting because I think his intrigue and his intellect would really, really, fasten his pace through kind of gains and whatever. But I talk to him basically every day about this, and he's learned a lot from it, especially for somebody that hasn't had a background in kind of weightlifting. Maybe one day we'll get him on camera and have a chat if he's happy to. Where are you from? Answer that. What is your goal? 300 and 180. Those are the goals. What's your life story? How did you end up living in Adelaide, working in the health industry? Your accent sounds like you were born overseas, Serbia, if I had to presume. Best your last name. That was from Monkey Man. Yes, I am Serbian. I kind of mentioned this already. The war kind of got us here. We fled, living in Croatia originally, fled the war, went to Serbia as refugees, went to Kosovo. Kosovo was, not our land, right? So, we didn't have a home. So then we applied for, to come to Australia. Came to Australia and been here ever since. My mum is a nurse, so that's basically the introduction to the health industry. When I finished high school, I didn't have a really good score. So I wanted to kind of go down a physiotherapy path. I wanted to study human movement. But my score at the end of high school wasn't good enough to get into those courses. So I went into nursing. Nursing was a fair bit down in terms of scores. Got into nursing. Didn't think I was going to be, a nurse. But kind of the people that you kind of meet in this industry, kind of my people, you know what I mean? Like they're kind of wired the way I am. And that's kind of what kept me in the business. It can get hard sometimes, I guess, like any other job, man. Like it can all kind of get a bit much, but that's basically how I ended up being a nurse. DJ SYT, where are you from? Answer that. Do you train your core? So the core thing is, I've kind of been through stages where I've kind of trained core on and off. Not a huge translation to the bar at all for me. Like I tried suitcase carries. I tried obviously sit-ups, leg raises. The only thing that I really believe in is working the Psoas, leg raises, but specifically standing leg raises. Because I think if you do hanging leg raises, there's a tendency to lose the position of your lower back. Whereas you're standing, your lower back is always in position. So don't be too hasty to do leg raises too quickly if you don't have the strength. Because if you start kind of lordically, if that's a word, kind of like arching your back too much at the bottom, then you're kind of hurting your back. You kind of need to have that back flat or even posteriorly tilted when you're doing this. YP says, yes, Hrvat. Meaning, are you Croatian? No, I'm Serbian, but I'm from Croatia. So it's really hard for people to understand this. So born in Croatia, but I'm Serbian. The reason why we said that is because I'm Christian Orthodox. I'm not Christian Catholic. But basically, I'm Yugoslavian essentially. That was the country before it all split up. Should everyone squat every day? Should everyone squat every day? Probably no. Not everyone should squat every day. As much as I don't like saying that, I think I love squatting every day. Like I genuinely love it. I already mentioned some of the benefits, the mental side, the discipline. I love that stuff that it teaches you. I want to say yes, everyone should squat every day, but everyone's got different lives and whatever. For me, it works really well because I'm a nurse with shift work. So, I'll have a lot of days where I'm not really pushing myself. So by training every single day, I can kind of make up for those lackluster sessions with high frequency. Whereas if I did 3 days a week, sessions, it would be very, very difficult for me because I would then have to cram a lot of that volume into every single time I trained. And that's not good for my psyche, especially with coming off nights and whatever, knowing that I have to go into war every single time I get into a session. Rakshith V. Shetty, what do you do for a living? I'm a nurse. And then we have body squat every day. I kind of answered that question already. Oh man, I reckon I'm at the end of it. Wow, I'm at the end of all okay, beautiful. So I reckon that's all of the questions answered already. I don't know how many minutes I'm in this video, but that's pretty much the end of Q&A 3, I think. So what I'm going to try to do in a couple of days, I'm going to post another one of these posts on my page, and I'll just ask for more questions. If you guys have any questions, I'll post, and if you guys don't have any questions, I won't do a Q&A. But if you guys have more questions about, I guess, more of this stuff or some stuff concerning the recent changes, thinking to my training, then I'll upload another one of these Q&As. I really enjoy doing these. I feel like I'm actually talking to you guys, as weird as this is. But yeah, I'll leave it there. I'll catch you guys tomorrow for a workout. I'm going to try and get to sleep now. I think that was my son waking up now. It's nighttime now. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.